All right, so we're back to broadcasting. Apologies, guys, a little bit for the delay. I'm Chris Shepard. This is Tony D from AbsoluteAbility.com. We're live streaming an interview right now, and if you have any questions, just post them in the YouTube comments, and we're going to get to them. Apologies for the technical difficulties.
Shit happens. Yeah. You know, we have signals flying up into outer space and coming back, and they're going through nightclubs and doing day game and making it back here. So. Awesome. So tell me, all right, so you wrote a book. What do you do? Tell me about yourself. I wrote 2 books.
You wrote 2 books?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first one is called 1,000 Tiny Failures. It's an autobiographical, fictionalized memoir in the vein of something like a coming-of-age story about a guy who moves to Montreal to figure out how to become a pickup artist. And I wrote another book, which is a short how-to guide called I Hope It's Sunny Out. It's a guide to day game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this fictionalized memoir, because that's the one that I read.
Yeah, you did.
And
you were the first
I'm sorry, I didn't read your day game book.
well, I sent you a copy of it actually, because we've been friends for a long time.
I know.
And you said, I'm not hooked, I don't like it. And then it shamed me so bad. I rewrote it 15 times because I wanted to impress Chris from Love Systems. I just needed his validation, and I gave it back to him, and he finally got past the first chapter, which he didn't care about, and then he really liked it.
Yeah, because the first chapter, when I first read it, it wasn't that good, and then when I read it the second time, it was way, way better.
Well, what happened is you became more intelligent over
Probably. It was me and my maturation process.
Well, the first chapter is kind of a fast forward through the early parts of my life, so it reads differently than the rest of the book. Once the main character, Sebastian, gets to Montreal, it becomes more of like a real-time pickup transformation story.
Yeah.
A lot of people have said in reviews online, if you check it out on Amazon.com, 1,000 Tiny Failures, a lot of people have said in the comments this is better than the game. Another review I heard was, if the game got you into pickup, 1,000 Tiny Failures will keep you in the game.
Keep you in, all right, good.
So I actually sent it to Neil Strauss, and I said, hey Neil, people are saying my book's better than yours. And his personal assistant got back to me, and she's like, oh, Neil's really busy right now, but he said he's going to get to it when he can. He gets a lot of books. Neil, if you're watching, you know, I would really like you to read that book and get back to me, buddy.
No, but in the book it starts out with you coming from a rough place, right? Where you grew up in Vancouver. What's the?
Well, when I was in my early teens, around 12, 13 years old, right when I hit puberty, I developed a condition called gynecomastia, which is enlargement of the breast glands.
Yeah.
So I had man-boobs, and it was really devastating on my self-esteem.
Yeah.
I also came from a broken home, like a lot of guys in our society, single-parent household, and I didn't have anyone to teach me really how to be a masculine guy. I didn't know anything about how to attract women, so I was really a very weak character in that sense. But when I moved to Vancouver, I went through my trials and tribulations. I played in bands, like you were into punk rock. I was also into punk rock. And when I was 27 years old, I found this forum called gynecomastia.org, and they just said, just get an operation, get some liposuction, deal with it. It cost me $2,000, and I got them to take out the glands, and now I have a beautiful masculine chest. And right away I was like, oh my god, everything's better, right? But it's kind of like that saying, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
It was the same thing for my self-esteem. Like it was like putting a band-aid over, like the cliched saying, putting a band-aid over a gaping flesh wound, right?
Yeah.
And then I discovered the PUA stuff around the same time in 2006, 2007. I saw a documentary on TV and it blew my mind. Like, wow, you can do that?
Yeah.
That's like magic. And so that was the start of my journey, was me just, as soon as I found out about that stuff, I read about it all night on these pickup forums, fastseduction.com.
Yeah.
And I went straight out and started practicing the next day. And,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and I was terrible at it, like most guys. And now, 10, 11 years later, I'm teaching it professionally, just like you, traveling around the world, helping guys to find success with women, and it's been my only job for so long. Somehow there's enough guys out there that need help that I've been able to pay my bills and do a bit of traveling.
That's awesome.
And I wrote this book, I wrote this novel, because I was always a journalist before, like I did freelance journalism. And so I wrote this book, and the reason I wrote 1,000 Tiny Failures in the funny, very hypersexual, kind of violent, debaucherous, the debaucherous story it is, was because I really love Charles Bukowski. And when I ran out of Charles Bukowski,
awesome.
yeah, when I ran out of his books, I thought, you know what I have to do is write my own Charles Bukowski story. And so that's kind of what I aimed at. I really reference him a lot through my novel too, to kind of say, hey, I'm just ripping this guy off.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, I love Charles Bukowski. He's such a just this writer that's so dirty and gritty and real.
Real, honest.
And I definitely got a bit of that from your stuff. And yeah, man, it's just that's a great story. And it's interesting. Like what I hear from that story is like you had this physical problem, you had this thing that's holding you back. You dealt with it. You were like, oh, this is just who I am. You accepted it. Then you realize like, oh wait, I don't have to deal with this. I can change it. I have control over even how I look. And then you fixed it. But then you still had, once you fixed the physical side of things, you still had to fix your self-esteem, fix your internal things. So now it would match your outer perspective, your outer persona.
Well, I wasn't even thinking back then about like inner game or anything. It was just like I got into Ross Jeffries of all things, right? And I was like reading NLP routines about roller coasters, and that was back in the day. It was like this stuff was like magic. It wasn't this sort of holistic mission to improve every aspect of your life. It was like memorize these magic routines, and you will get girls.
So many cringy memories.
Yeah, but I thought it was amazing. So I went out and started trying this shit, and I wrote about it in the book, and it's kind of hilarious, because I'm trying to do like NLP on girls and stuff, and actually a lot of it is really oddly effective in making girls happy.
You just have to keep talking, man.
Yeah.
It's just the confidence that guys have when they're using it a lot.
But it's also telling people how to feel. So because I'm a writer, I'm a pretty good storyteller, and I'm very verbose. So if I say something like, don't think of pink elephants, you have to think of pink elephants. So I did learn a lot from Ross Jeffries in a funny way. That wasn't really helping me get girlfriends. It was just helping me learn how to be a better communicator. And then I got into mystery method, like everybody did. And then after a while you go, oh, routines are stupid, and you get into something else. And now everybody's kind of on the same page in the industry, I feel like, most people. Well, some people are more eccentric than others, but now I'm all about just developing improvisational skills, self-confidence, kind of the same stuff you guys teach.
Cool. Listen, I'm gonna go right now. I'm gonna check on to Reddit and see if anybody there is commenting on this, and see if we have any questions. So if you're out there watching, we got a few dozen guys watching live right now. Feel free to ask us a question and give us some feedback. And
are you on Our Seduction?
Yeah, I'm on Our Seduction. I posted this here, and share this thing around, because it is. We are gonna get a bunch more people, I think, showing up onto the live stream in a few minutes.
When I come to your town, I want you to take care of me, okay? You owe me.
What's going on?
Reddit.
So that we stop streaming for a second. All right. Looks like the stream is still going good, so let's keep talking. No one wants to know what's up. It's going good.
What's
going up? It's chill. It's relaxed.
Nothing goes up from here. We're at the top, baby.
We're at the top.
Yeah.
Starting from the bottom, now we're here.
We can only look down from up here.
So okay, how comfortable? Do you think there are a lot of guys out there who have man-boobs who are dealing with the same shit you did?
Well, there's forums full of them, apparently.
Have you ever gone back onto that forum and been like, yo, guys with man-boobs?
Actually, no, I completely abandoned them once I fixed my problem.
Fuck this.
I even had a guy from that forum he picked me up at the airport, and he hooked me up in a hotel that his girlfriend was running, and they're a supportive community.
Yeah.
Right? But once I solved my problem, I was like,
don't want
peace out.
You should go back, man.
I should go tell my story.
You should give you're here on Our Seduction or on Love Systems, talk about those kinds of communities. dude, you need to go back to the Man-Boob forum and talk to those guys because where the real change happened, man.
I'll go back there and be like, yeah, you know, I got my boobs fixed and I became a massive man whore. So thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
They'll probably be, you'll probably hit the top of that one, man. You're probably going to be like a hero.
I wonder if there's a gynecomastia Reddit.
Yeah.
There probably is.
You'd be like who's that workout dude that died of heart attack when he was like 27 years old?
I don't know.
I forget that. He was some
he
fitness. He was just some fitness dude who was on like 4chan's fitness thing, and he died at 27 because he did a lot of steroids basically. But he was a hero to those dudes.
Yeah, and then
He went for it's the before photo of like super duper skinny, and then the second photo of like super jacked.
That's funny, man.
Yeah,
like you kind of said even like my book's almost a cautionary tale. Like I think in your review.
Yeah, it is. It is because I read the book. I read the book all the way through. I gave, like I said, I gave you some editing advice at the beginning, and I thought, it's really true. That's the most interesting part about it. It's like a really, really true experience. So it's cool and awesome. I remember there's one scene. What was the scene where somebody like some dude in Montreal is completely nuts?
Oh yeah, so that
had a wingman who was nuts.
Yeah, that character, my first wingman, he wasn't into the pickup scene. He was just a kid who did a lot of drugs. And he had a lot of game. He was a bisexual dude, pretty unbalanced, really like hardcore political left. So he was a blast to hang out with. And I wrote about that guy and made him, famous. So he doesn't even know it. I've got all these people I wrote about, and they're like really popular characters that people like asked me about, like what happened to this guy, him and Alexandro, which is a good friend of mine, and the natural in the book, and the crazy kid, and some of these other characters that I fictionalized. Yeah, he was a nutcase. Well, I really wanted to write this story not to just be like praising pickup, to just be like, this will change your life and everything will be perfect. No, because everything in life is an up and down wave cycle, yin and yang. And learning seduction, it can often be a very debaucherous adventure, which is part of the fun. And I wanted to be so raw and honest with it that people would feel moved emotionally by it. Even show people at their worst, show myself at my worst, and the character Sebastian at his worst. It's because without the contrast of the lows, you wouldn't appreciate the highs, because it's 1,000 tiny failures. It's all about how you have to overcome massive amounts of failure and rejection and humiliation, and then the funny shit that happens too. And so when you get that success, when you finally get that girl, it's really rewarding for the reader. And a lot of guys say this is just like my experience learning game. I really wanted to show the emotional journey of learning pickup, not just the tactical and intellectual journey.
And the thing is too, is like good stories about real life men living their lives, like what are average guys, or mostly average guys doing. What are they experiencing? I haven't read very many of those that have been written in the past 20, 30 years. I don't know if people, I read a fair bit of fiction. I'm not well connected in that, but I don't think anybody's writing. I don't think there's any men who are writing real stories about their experiences in the personal memoir style, the way that guys like Charles Bukowski did, the way that guys like Hemingway, George Orwell. These are the authors that I thought.
There's that Carl Nasgard guy, or what's his name? He's from Norway, and he wrote my. It's called Mein Kampf. But it's called like my my struggle.
Okay.
And he has a whole series of sort of autobiographical books, but his story is really well done and well written. But yeah, that's what I was thinking too when I wrote this book. I was like, you know what? There aren't many good books for masculine men about masculine journeys. And when I tried to get it published, as soon as I started sending it to publishers or to agents, I had 2 agents get back to me right away. One guy was the head of literature at McGill University, the top dog of the literature department. He said, Tony, I don't want you sending this to any more agents. I want this book. I'm going to teach it to my students. I was like, holy flattery, right?
Wow, that's awesome.
I was like, my ego went up a notch. I was like, I don't suck. But for 3 months he couldn't sell it to any publishers. And I had some female agents get back to me, and they wanted the book, and they got back to me, and they couldn't sell it. And what the thing is with the publishing industry is the reason ebooks are getting so popular is because the publishing industry is so backwards and so, I hate to say it, feminized. There isn't much room for masculine books. Like even Tucker Max, when he wrote his books, he had to fight for years to get it published traditionally because everyone was like, it's misogynist. Right?
Yeah.
Anything dealing with masculine issues in the mainstream publishing industry just doesn't come out. So you have
Political correctness is just
political correctness,
keeping
yeah.
the whole thing down. Yeah.
So I think
People
like
that.
there's a huge market for books for men that tell masculine adventure stories and biographies that are well written, right? You know, because online you can find lots of like lay report type books, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I found out? Men love lay reports. It's almost like the way women love 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
I found that men love reading about this chase and the seduction and the sex, whereas women really like reading about the emotional journey.
Yeah.
Men really like the sort of conquering stories of the man conquering hardships. And I think there's a huge market for that for anybody who starts a publishing business based around masculine concepts and masculine stories.
Yeah, no, I can believe that. I mean, I think part of the issue too is apparently women read way more books than guys do, and that one problem is men are not spending a huge amount of money on books, especially
well, they don't read
fiction.
a lot of fiction.
Especially fiction, yeah. They're reading nonfiction.
Which is unfortunate because you can get a lot of wisdom from fiction. Right now I'm reading War and Peace, and I love Tolstoy, right? And I'll read one page of Tolstoy and I'll put it down and just sit there and go like, wow, like the stories that he was telling of these soldiers going through the mist with their military, with their armies, and then the stories of the balls that they had, and it's just the masculine man trying to like make his way in the world. And he's got beta males, and he's got like gold digging women, and he's got brilliant women, and he's got all these stories of people that give you so much wisdom that a self-help or a non-fiction book can't give you. It puts you into someone else's life and lets you live through their experience, even if it's fiction. And men should read those because, you know, a lot of guys are like, I don't know what to say to women.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's the last book you read? And they're like, and they'll be like, you know, what's a book that everybody's reading right now? Like The Social Animal or something, or some interesting fiction book. And I'm like, yeah, but you know, you're not really going to learn about poetry. You're not going to learn about metaphors. You know, if I'm talking to a girl and I'm like, oh, you remind me of like a drunken unicorn lost in a field of dreams, or something ridiculous, that makes them laugh. And guys, a lot of them, they can't seem to come up with this sort of witty metaphor because they don't read any poetry.
Yeah, absolutely. And just things, you know, I do think absolutely that in literature, the big thing that you get, the big thing you learn even from fiction, you know, it's not just entertainment. And you only learn this from books. You don't learn this from watching a movie. Because from a movie, you're always outside the character. You're always watching the character. You're always in your own body, in the movie theater, watching that character on the screen doing something.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in a book, when you're reading a first-person perspective book, you are the character. You know, and you're being carried by the author through that character's growth and development and their own internal thoughts. So you think things, it makes you think things that you normally wouldn't think. And, you know, even like Game of Thrones or something like that is a perfectly good example of like, you know, you're following like Bran as a young man who's crippled and learning, you know, dealing with the fear that he has around that and all those characters. But obviously there's plenty of stuff that's way more character driven, let's say, than Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys study the alpha male characters, and the midget from Game of Thrones, what's his name?
Tyrion, yeah.
Tyrion is a brilliant example of how even though you have, because you know, you've taught so many guys, right?
Yeah.
You've had short guys, old guys, brown guys, white guys, tall guys, smart guys, you know, slower guys. And, you know, some of these guys, they come with so many limiting beliefs. And I have guys that come to me with limiting beliefs. I say, you know that guy from Game of Thrones, the dwarf? And I say, if you look at him on screen, he's something. He's inspirational, right? But you know, he read a lot of books, a ton of books, and he used his mind to bring himself to power. And he has a lot of integrity. But if you look at him off screen as well, if you put that guy in a nightclub, he's going to walk out with a bombshell of a girl because he's a movie star, right? So it just goes to show you on so many levels that you know, being an artist is very powerful in seduction and self-development, and you can pick up characteristics from the art itself and from the artist, and I just find that midget very inspirational.
Yeah, he's a brilliant character. Peter Dinklage is a great.
Peter Dinklage. I'll stop calling him the midget. Sorry, Peter.
Great actor as well, and he really does own that role.
Yeah.
All right, so let's check this out.
Oh, we have a comment.
No, that's me. So Herod says ZYZZ. That's the name of the guy, the workout guy.
Oh, okay, ZYZZ. Zzz.
Yeah, I don't know.
Poor bastard.
And Noyan wants to know, do you share what it's like to be an instructor? Is that a whole new book? It's awesome that you keep it real. Because you've been talking to me for a while about writing a new book. Is that ready to go?
I've been struggling on this book for a long time.
Okay.
It's a book about backpacking, actually.
Yeah,
and it's sort of a murder mystery. And it is going to be very interesting to men. So anyway, but as far as 1,000 Tiny Failures is concerned, yes, I do talk about becoming an instructor. I talk about my first clients that I ever had. I talk about when I interned for this really ridiculous dating coaching company in Vancouver with a really ridiculous coach who was my boss for a little while, and how I became disgruntled with his philosophies and method of...
I apologize. I'm just trying to get people on the stream here.
And his lack of sort of what I figured was integrity with his students. And I went and I started coaching on my own. And it's all in the book. It's going from me being a guy who, when I talk to a woman, I stutter and have panic attacks, literally like palm sweating panic attacks, to going to the bar for the first time.
It's just me. There we go. We got the video back, guys. Apologies. It's me sucking at technology.
It's pretty amazing we can just sit here and broadcast to the world.
I know, man. This is revolutionary. This is why I'm doing it. Thanks for being on my first show. This is gonna be a talk show. We're gonna get
do it like over the top, like remember in the Stallone and what's his name? Because we're older. Remember that shit? Oh.
Remember that? Fuck that. Yep.
If only you could zoom in on our biceps.
We don't have a cameraman. This is just we just have a tripod.
I thought you were gonna
here.
say we don't have biceps.
We need to get. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't want to. I don't want to show anything up.
That should be the screenshot right there.
All right. I have to tell you something though, because I was to prepare for this interview. I was reading up on gynecomastia and man-boobs in general and stuff like that.
Body dysmorphia in general.
And
or just
I went to a place. I don't even want to say the name of the place on camera here because it's not safe for work. It's like a little bit troubling.
Okay.
It's called bodybuildermilk.com. And it's a website of a guy who does a lot of steroids. And that's a side effect you get of if you don't do the right, if you don't do the right, you get man boobs when you do steroids.
Yeah.
So this guy, I don't know, he did the steroids, he got the man boobs.
Yeah.
But then I guess maybe he decided he liked the man boobs.
So he kept them.
So he kept them.
His name is Robert Paulson.
And do not go to bodybuildermilk.com. That's my advice to you out there is do not go to bodybuildermilk.com. But if you do, tell us what you think in the comments. Because that shit's messed up. I'm going to show you. All right.
Oh, we had a question there.
I'm gonna
bodybuildermilk.com, let's go. Okay. Everybody check out Bodybuilder Milk.
This is...
Oh no. Wow. Oh Jesus. He's milking his own titties. You know, that could be called confidence. I don't know. You use what you got.
I'm gonna see if I can.
Is he actually shooting milk?
I
can never unsee that, dude. Like.
All right. Let's see.
I can never unsee that. You might use that as a pickup technique if you have that problem. You know, just go.
All right. Here we go.
Just start
this is it, guys. I'm displaying the. Anyway, that's it. That's the site.
Yeah.
Not safe for work. Getting rid of.
You know, like pickup advice has gone a lot. You know what's funny? I was thinking about this today. Back in the day.
Anyway.
Back in the days before game, how did guys figure they should get women? Get huge muscles, get lots of money.
Yeah.
and get rich. That was basically it, right? And then game came along and it was like spit out these memorized lines that are meant to make her horny and love you hypnotically, to this sort of inner game self-development, be in the present moment thing. And now it's kind of going back to get jacked and make money. I've noticed a lot of these new guru guys, I won't say a lot of names, but they're just like work out. Nothing wrong with working out. I mean, I work out, but I've been slacking off on it, kind of chubby. But it's kind of funny how it's gone full circle. There's even some pickup guys online that like promote taking steroids.
Yeah.
GLL. I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't know the guy, but it's kind of funny how it's gone all the way around to that again.
Yeah. Well, there's always a dynamic, but in the end, the reason why I continue to teach from the perspective I do is because it is, everybody applies their own insecurities and their own beliefs onto their dating life, onto the opposite sex,
Mm-hmm.
And but the fact is, like, if you want to improve as a person, the best way to do it is by working on your dating life, I think. And that's the best way to get immediate feedback. That's the cool thing about it, because you can go out, you can talk to people, you get really, really quick feedback on how you're doing socially, whereas you don't get that kind of feedback anywhere else. And it's a really excellent way to gain power over your own social life.
How many guys have you had show up on program that are like in really great shape and their game just sucks?
Yeah, plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty of guys who are really good looking who have no luck with women. Because women, you can be the best looking dude around. If you have no game, you're done. If you make you can make certain mistakes over and over and over and over and over again, and you always get rejected. Whereas if you do the right things, if you behave the right way, you can make up for not being a particularly good looking dude in the first place. And that's what most people don't realize. And I think that more than ever, like, it's the social skills that people need to work on. Online dating. People are doing this online dating. It is killing people's ability to relate to one another in the real world. And
it's ruining women for us too, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's like a culture war conversation, but when you have a machine and you can turn it on anytime, you get instantly validated by 500 guys and take your pick. And they even have apps like Bumble where they just go through and find the best looking guy they can and go out with him. It really, really makes it even harder for us. I think game has changed a lot since I started just because of technology.
But women do that. They do have all those options. But if you talk to any of them, they're so frustrated. They don't like.
Oh, I know.
They hate online. Everybody hates online dating.
Yeah.
Everybody hates online dating. Everybody does it. It's that they rely on it.
Yeah.
But they all hate it. And but they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
They don't know how to. They don't know how it works in real life, or they don't know how to make online dating work for them. Make it into something where you go on one date every 2 weeks, but you're meeting somebody who's like really, really solid because you've screened them and you've created a connection so that they like you and that you actually have spoken to one another on the phone several times, perhaps. That's the kind of thing that most people aren't doing because they don't have any strategy. Their strategy is just like, give me more stimulation.
Well, people are running apps to just go through profiles and like them and send automatic comments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy software to do that. Have you seen the video of the piece of meat just going back and forth and slapping on Tinder?
No, I have not.
It's pretty funny.
That's hilarious. Okay, we got some questions. Who are a short list of fiction authors you recommend? Hemingway. Who else?
Well, I guess it depends on if you're looking for things that might help you with your self-development, or your masculinity or philosophies. That's a different story. But my favorite authors would be Haruki Murakami, who wrote this book called The Wind-Up Bird Chronicles.
Okay.
That book, to me, was just amazing because it's like walking through a dream. It's a story about this guy who's looking for his cat.
Okay.
In Japan, and he's a Japanese author. He's the most famous author in Japan. He's genius. Obviously, Tolstoy I've read Anna Karenina, which has amazing insight into the human psyche, especially between men and women. You've got like the beta male, rich guy chasing the beautiful young girl, he's older. Then you've got the handsome sort of alpha bad boy soldier who's like stealing Anna Karenina away from her husband, and their dynamics. I mean, that book really opened my mind to social dynamics in a way that like dating pickup stuff it couldn't. Who else would I love?
It's good that you have once you have that mindset in the first place, all of a sudden you're reading it.
You see it in everything.
It all makes sense. But if you didn't have it in the first place, you'd be like, oh, this is a nice story.
Yeah.
That guy was a jerk, and you don't
Yeah.
see the deeper layers to what's going on.
Yeah, I like hard fiction. Like I like sort of intense fiction. Like I'm not really into a lot of sci-fi, but those are two. I mean, obviously Ernest Hemingway. I love Ernest Hemingway's work. At first I hated it because they made you read it in high school, and I thought it was boring. But then coming back later, if you look into Ernest Hemingway's lifestyle, he was the ultimate sort of chest beaten. He goes to wars for fun. He likes to run with the bulls and shoot fish with machine guns and stuff. So he was an intense, kind of messed up dude, but his writing changed the way people write. Obviously, Charles Bukowski. Do you know any other fiction authors you really love?
Well, with Ernest Hemingway, I also found him boring when I read him in high school. Partly because I had to read Old Man and the Sea, which is not the most, it's about
It's about an old man fishing.
It's about an old man fishing for like 50 pages. It's really good, but it's not a good one for a teenager. It lacks that kind of excitement. But also I think you have to get into writing a little bit before you really appreciate Ernest Hemingway.
Have you tried Dostoevsky? I just read Crime and Punishment, which is
I have tried
awesome
Dostoevsky.
I
haven't finished Crime and Punishment.
I got through it. It took me a long time. I'm like War and Peace has taken me freaking ever. I take breaks. But Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky was something that really blew my mind. There's so much philosophy inside Dostoevsky. Like, great writing, it reads you. You know what I mean? Like Nietzsche, when you read some Nietzsche, like Thus Spoke Zarathustra, I had a guide that explained what Thus Spoke Zarathustra was about. It's about this man who goes up into the mountains because he's frustrated with society. He feels like alienated because he knows he's a lot smarter and he's special, but no one else sees it and he doesn't really know what to do. So he goes into the mountains, he hangs out with the animals, and he comes back down the mountains to proclaim God is dead. And people laugh at him and they throw shit at him, they mock him. And he's spitting out all this mad philosophy about space-time, like just masculinity and the nature of reality. And that book really blew my frickin' mind as far as fiction is concerned, but it's not an easy read at all. It's like you read one paragraph and you'll put it down and I'll just go into my philosophical zone for a while, walk around pacing and thinking about it and shit. And then I'll go and I'll write like a 400-word blog post to put on my blog about it, right? Like those are the kind of books I really enjoy right now. Shit that just,
Yeah, I'd say some books I really. Siddhartha by Herman Hesse.
Oh, Siddhartha is brilliant.
That's a great easy read. Yeah. That's a great one for like
that was a big inspiration for 1,000 Tiny Failures, actually, because 1,000 Tiny Failures is very much about debauchery. There's very graphic sex scenes. I'm like, holding girls' feet up and calling them nasty words and spanking them. I'm describing it all. Doing drugs and stuff. And in the end, people who criticize that book, like women love the book too, because it's a very dirty book, and some women told me they masturbate to it. A lot of guys masturbate to my book, and I'm not, for real. That's okay. It's a very titillating story. Anyway, so in Herman Hesse's book, that story, I've read most of his books now, but The Glass Bead Game as well. But in Siddhartha, this monk leaves his monastery, the Buddha, and they're like, don't go out into the world, it's dangerous and it's dirty and there's sex and evil. And he said, great, that's exactly what I want to experience because it'll give me perspective. And so he went out and he did all this stuff and he became enlightened because of it. He slept with hookers, he became a wealthy man, he became a powerful man, he became an educated man. And then in the end, he went and sat down by a river and just meditated. And so when people criticize me, because if you do this job, you often get, flack from the media, you get flack from people, SJWs, whatever you want to call them, politically correct stuff, and they say, oh, it's so bad what you're doing and everything. You say, no, it's not really, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with going through experiencing carnal pleasures and whatnot if you don't hurt people, because that gives you perspective later in life. If you just try to be a good boy your whole life, you're not going to really have that full human experience, so you won't have any perspective, and that's the perfect story for that.
Yeah. No, going out and getting those experiences and living life to the fullest. That's okay. So Siddharth, you ever read David Foster Wallace?
Oh, I've tried to finish Infinite Jest.
Yeah.
That's another book that just, man, I couldn't finish it because it's like this big, right? And it was really a difficult read, but it's one of those books where you read one paragraph and you put it down and go, oh, what the fuck just happened? Yeah, David Foster Wallace is brilliant. It's been on my list. Did you finish it?
I did finish it. Yes, that
Good
one.
job,
It was a slog. It was a slog.
Yeah,
but yeah, I did finish that one. I really like David Foster Wallace's like short essays and stuff like that. That was how I got into it. I read those, and they're like, I'm like, okay, this is really good writing. This is going a layer deeper than anything else.
He really touches on just like cultural issues.
Yeah, and but also just like he takes very mundane things and goes way deeper with them, and does it in an entertaining way, and has a sort of interesting way of speaking. But yeah, Infinite Jest Man was an effort. That was a lot of work. Like, it wasn't the most enjoyable.
I think David
book
Foster
I've ever read, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody who doesn't love reading, basically, and love good writing.
I think he's going to be one of those writers that changes the way people write. Like, we haven't even figured out how he did that yet. Like, it's so brilliant that it's like, you may think it sucks, but then as the generations go on, he's going to be regarded as one of the great literary minds of our time, of the modern age. How he names all the chapters after corporations, like the year of depends.
Yeah.
And yeah. I can't even wrap my head around David Foster Wallace yet. Oh Jesus, there's the milk again. Milk kitties.
I'm trying to go to Reddit.
No, I can't unsee that, man.
I'm
gonna see it in my
scarred.
dreams.
I'm scarred. I saw it last night when I was researching. I'm like, all right, it's got to make it into the. It's got to make it into the live stream somewhere. All right, so we got a question from somebody. He asked, "How did you get into day game? And would you say is like how does that differ from going out to bars and clubs?" And yeah.
It's funny, but you know, I always dabbled in a little bit of day game, but when everyone was doing night game, when I lived in Montreal during the time I wrote 1,000 Tiny Failures, everyone was doing night game. I was doing night game 7 nights a week. And there was one guy on this forum, on the Montreal forums, and he was just like, I hate going out at night, I'm only going out in the daytime, and I'm just walking up to girls and saying, hey, I think you're pretty, I think you're hot. And he was saying he was getting all these crazy results, and we all kind of mocked him. And I started sort of dabbling in it, but really, I didn't start doing serious, like straight up direct approaches like you see all over YouTube now. It's really normal, actually. It's getting annoying because women are like, you're the fourth guy to approach me. But going indirect, I would say, is the future if you want to not get called out because of the media bullshit about pickup artists. But anyway, it was during one of my boot camps where I started teaching day game, and I said, okay guys, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to teach you how to go direct. We're going to go up to in Vancouver here, we're going to go up to these girls and say, hey, I thought you were cute and I had to meet you. And they were like, can you show us? And I was like, oh yeah, no problem. And I turned around and I was like, okay. Oh yeah, no problem. Like, I was terrified, and I just went up and I did it. Hey, I just saw you, I thought you were cute, I had to meet you, or something like that. And the girl was like, oh, thank you. And she, you know, that was 7 years ago. I've been doing it ever since. I don't always do direct gay game myself, but I always make my students, whenever we do day game boot camps, do that as the first step. Because if you can't even tell a girl you think she's hot, you're going to have a real hard time doing the rest of your stuff. Because at some point you got to pull the trigger. I primarily now teach more advanced students indirect stuff. So you get in there and you express the same thing in a different way, right? You might make a really witty observation, sort of elicit some values from her, find out what she's into, if you can make a joke or two, and then make a compliment about, you know, her hair or her personality, but let it be known. But the first step, I think, is just to go up and say, hey, I think you're pretty, I had to meet you. If you can't even do that, you're in trouble.
No, and you gotta, you've got to learn how to be in touch with your sexuality, so that you can say that, hey.
Don't
you're
actually
really attracted
touch
by
your
it, can I say that?
sexuality while you do the approach.
Don't
touch
actually
your
in touch. But you've got to realize that, like, you got to have this attitude. I'm an attractive man. I can, if I meet a woman that I'm interested in, I can speak to her, and that's not
Well, all you gotta do is walk
awful
up.
thing to do.
All you gotta do, Chris, is walk up and say, "Look at the hair. Look at the hair," and it says
I got
everything.
haircuts a day, man.
It's nice.
You should see me.
It's good.
You should
I
see
got
me
hat
yesterday.
head, so I'm just keeping the
I
tip
look
going.
like a lunatic.
But I see when I go out with Chris, and girls will just grab his hair and be like, "Ah, your hair."
That's my whole game these days, basically. You look like Einstein. I got totally look like Einstein a bunch of times.
Einstein.
That's when I know it's bad.
Yeah.
I start getting Einstein, Bob Ross.
Oh no.
That was a bad one.
You should be like, "Well, come back and I can paint you."
Yeah.
But you're spoken for, aren't you?
I do. I am in a serious relationship. Yes. So. So yeah, if we got any more questions from guys on the stream, we might be streaming for another 10 more minutes. We're going to go until 8 p.m. But thanks so much for coming out, Tony. This has been really, really excellent. Share this around. This is also going to be available. It's going to be on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it even if you're not able to see it live.
Buy
We're
a
not
boot
gonna
camp
take
from
it
Love
down.
Systems. They're the best in the business.
Do whatever.
I'm second
you feel
best.
like. Whatever you feel like.
Second best.
Tune in for the next one. I want to have more people on these live streams and showing up to them. And
I love
interviewing
live
different
streaming.
guys.
It's so fun because you don't, it's unscripted. You just get in there, and I do live streams from my website. If you guys want to come to my blog, absoluteability.com, sign up for the mailing list. Maybe I'll bring Chris on one of my live streams.
Hell yeah.
We'll make a lot of dick jokes and stuff. I don't have so many viewers, so.
Okay, check. We got this guy. He comes on every live stream. Cream pie gains.
Cream pie. What's a cream pie, Chris? What's a cream pie?
You're gonna have to Google that on your own
Okay.
computer. This is a work computer.
I've never heard of that before.
I can't.
Is that a donut? Like a
I've already been. I'm already blacklisted.
I've never done
from the Office internet server.
Oh, we got a downvote.
You got somebody
who downvoted
Somebody
us?
gave us a thumbs
It's
down.
probably my hater, I've got this hater that stalks me, like
This one
everything. This one girl, yeah, she's obsessed with me. She's in love with me, actually. She's one of my biggest fans. She fucking follows me everywhere and just like writes crazy stuff on my blog posts and on my tweets and on Reddit, and like I make funny Instagram. I make Instagram memes under TD Newton, TD_Newton. And she'll like take them and like alter them to make me look like a rapist or something. I'm like making jokes about puppies. And she's like, it means rape. And yeah, but she loves me. That's probably her. I've got this
Have you
other.
ever had? What do you find being a dating coach? You got your face out there as I do. How do you find that affects your relationships with women, and how do people treat you because of that?
With women that I date, well, it's always tricky. You know what it's like. Either they think it's completely brilliant and it's awesome, they don't give a shit, or you just all of a sudden never hear from them again. They just gone. It's like, what happened? Oh, they found your blog or something. But any girls that actually read my blog, they're not usually triggered by it, or they're like fine with it. They think it's cool. It's mostly just because of the media propaganda, the sort of like cult of liberalism that's just totally against anything to do with men getting laid or finding girls, and they just think we're just all about using women and tossing them for the next one, which I will, I'll admit there are people in the industry, and I've been that guy who just want to get laid a lot. Well, what's wrong with wanting to get laid? I know a lot of women who have a lot of sex with random guys, but yeah, for a while, I was on the front page of my newspaper, the Vancouver Province, when 1,000 Tiny Failures came out. 1,000 Tiny Failures. Pitching my book. But when I would go around and people would just kind of like snap pictures of me on their phone. And I'd be like, what the fuck, right? I'm on the bus or at a restaurant, and people just kind of walk up and be like, take a picture of me. And I had some like hater brigades come after me, but that stuff always goes away really quickly. It lasts like 2 days. There's just too much information out there for people to really care. Like even I heard about this Julian Blanc guy. I saw an interview with him a while ago, and he was talking about, he was the world's most hated man because of his job. And he says nobody recognizes him anymore. It hasn't affected his life at all. If not, it made him a better person, and it made him, it was his way to get into the real self-help industry. And he's hanging out with Elliot Hulse now, and like all these sort of mainstream guru people, men and women, like, because people, they get really outraged about something, and then they go look into you, and they're like, oh, this guy's kind of smart. He's saying interesting things, and so yeah, it doesn't affect me that badly, but it is kind of a bummer when I meet someone I like, and then they just hear that, oh, that guy's a pickup coach, and I'm like, you know what, we're so much more than pickup coaches. Like, I think that's such a limiting thing. I don't even like to say PUA. I use PUA as a Google search term, right? So guys can find me, Vancouver PUA or something. But I just think of us as being like life coaches or authors or into self-help.
Well, you are an author.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I've in my experience, everybody is skeptical. They're always like, oh, what's that? You explain, that guy goes up, you explain what I do. And cool people are cool with it, and uptight people are very uptight about it.
Yeah.
But I've never met somebody who I'm like, oh wow, this person is like a really fun, open-minded, free spirit kind of person.
Yeah.
The kind of person that I really like hanging out with, and then had a bad reaction. It's always been like, somebody's girlfriend really doesn't like what I do, or somebody who just has their own idea that you can tell right off the bat they already know everything they need to know about you as soon as you tell them what your job is, and they're just not interested in listening at all.
No, the wall goes up, the intellectual barricade. No.
So I don't let that hurt my self-esteem. I don't ever treat that like it's a rejection of me personally, because it's not.
Well, you're a curious person, right? Like, I think guys that get into this stuff are really curious. When you hear something that sounds unreal, it's like, instead of being like, I like to go and explore it. Like, I just read somewhere that there's Christians that believe dinosaurs lived up till a few thousand years ago, and they have evidence. So I'm like, well, I'll look at that, sure. And I spent a couple hours researching it. Whereas most people, they're just like, blah. Like, I'll actually go look at it. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. I wouldn't have this job.
That's like Socrates, man. You got to go out, and the way you find truth is by trying to disprove the stuff you already know. If you have a whole bunch of ideas in your head and you just go around trying to look for evidence to back up your preconceived notions, you're not engaging in science. You're not learning.
Yeah.
You're just getting more rigid in the stuff you already think you have learned. Whereas if you say,
it's just like
I'm a liberal, but I'm going to read these conservative newspapers just to see what the other side thinks. That's something I always do. I'm always read what other people, the people that I disagree with, are saying, to see if they have any points. And if they don't have any points, I'm like, these people. But you've got to always give that some perspective. Most people aren't interested in engaging in that kind of thought. It's too much work for most people.
It's like when you eat too many Cialis and it's just rock hard. There's no flexibility there. You don't want to be like that.
You don't want to be like that all the time.
All the time. Just once in a while, you want to keep your frame, but not like, just take like half a Cialis frame, not like 4 or 5. Like Dan Bilzerian. I saw an interview with him.
Yeah.
And Dan Bilzerian, this guy on Instagram who's got like 10 million followers, he said that when he was younger, he popped like 15 Cialis and did a whole bunch of blow, and he had a heart attack. So you do things in moderation.
Don't do that, kids.
Yeah. Totally on topic.
Totally on topic. How many Cialis should you do?
Well, I don't need them because I'm super alpha, right? But it's no problem if you need them. Take one. Follow the doctor's recommendations. Unless you're in Thailand, you don't need a doctor. You can just buy them on the street corner. Yeah.
All right, that's awesome. All right, Tony. Well, you know what? We're up at about an hour, and this has been a really awesome interview. So, guys, if you like this interview, please share it around. Subscribe to our channel. We've got a webinar coming up this weekend, on this Thursday, that you guys should check out at lovesystems.com. Check out Tony at absoluteability.com and his Book is called 1,000 Tiny Failures. It's a really good book. It's one of the best books written, best pieces of fiction written by a man in the past 5 years, I think.
Oh, that's nice of you. Yeah, and if you go on Amazon and it's not in your country, just search by Amazon for your country. It's available in every country. But, some guys are like, I'm from the UK, I can't buy it on Amazon.com. It's cheap, man. It's like $7. And it'll make you laugh your ass off, and maybe you'll jerk off a few times.
Yeah.
Buy the book.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.